What's up, everybody? My name is Justin Allen. This is going to be the Shakedown podcast, episode 2, with my uncle Walt Allen. We're going to talk about tracking deer with dogs. He's been doing it for 17 years, and so with that, this is my uncle, Walter. Glad to have you on here. I think there's going to be a lot of questions about, people don't understand tracking deer. A lot of people think, we're just tracking deer with dogs and they're tracking the blood, but that's not the case, is it?
No, that's not the case. Thanks for having me, Justin.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely.
So, 17 years ago, due to a poor shot, I shot a big buck we thought was in the 160s, and I shot it right down through the shoulder blades and give it plenty of time, and we went tracking and couldn't find anything. So we tracked towards the neighboring property, and our taxidermist actually hunts that property.
Yep.
So I took the pictures and went and talked to the taxidermist, and he said he had never seen the deer, but he did say, take my Jack Russells. He knew I had Jack Russells. He said, take your little dogs out there and find it. They'll be able to track it. So I went looking for the deer, and I couldn't find it. The dogs didn't find it, but I was determined to have a deer dog, but I didn't want to ever lose another one. So that year, Sonny was my first tracking dog. I took him, and I think it was 4 track jobs that year after does, and he found all 4. I let him. It was short jobs, and he went straight to them, and I let him just chew the hair out of them, and from then on, he's been a tracker. So the first year, I might have tracked 4 with Sonny. The second year, I might have tracked 20, I think it was, and then it went to 40. And then it went to 60.
Yep.
So it's been a learning experience ever since, and I have learned a lot. It took me many more years to learn than it did the dog.
Yeah, because it's not just the dog tracking. You got to be able to figure out how to work the dog. You got to figure out where he wants to go and how to work him. It's not like anybody can take your dog and go do it, right?
Right. My dogs don't bark. It's not like a rabbit dog. They don't bark going down the trail. They just walk, and they take you. It's on a leash, and as long as that leash is tight, you're going the right way. If it looks like he's asking me which way to go, you're going the wrong way.
Right. So when you got started in it, obviously you didn't really know anything about it.
Nothing.
And so the first 4 deer that you let Sonny track were just ones that you shot or friends shot.
I had shot some does.
That you knew were dead.
Yep.
Within 30, 40 yards, whatever. And you just put them on those tracks, right? Like you always say, to train them, short track, big reward.
Yep, short tracks, big reward.
So the next year, you just continued to do that. You didn't do anything like some of these other guys do, where they make mock trails or.
I've never tried making a mock trail. I volunteered to track everybody's deer. Anyone that shot one, I asked them not to go near it and call me, and I took Sonny on as many track jobs as I could take.
Yeah. So you tracked for the first year, maybe 20 the second year.
40 the third year.
40 the third year.
Found 29 out of the 40.
Found 29 out of the 40.
10 of the 11 I didn't find were back on camera.
Yeah.
Left 1 out of 40 we didn't.
That's pretty good.
For.
Back then, there wasn't really very many other trackers, right?
The first 10 years I tracked, there was no one else.
That you knew of, right?
That I knew of.
Correct.
In this area.
And now we're both on this Ohio tracker list, and I don't know how many people are on there for sure, but like maybe 50.
Yeah, there's somewhere around 50.
Yeah. A lot of great guys on there. I'm in a group chat with them. We talk all the time. So last time I checked as a group, there was 410, I think, confirmed recoveries from all of us in that group this year. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So the dogs have definitely made a huge difference. I mean, that's probably close to 400 deer that people wouldn't have got this year.
That's right.
Just from us and the dogs. So the dog's a great tool. Your dogs have definitely tracked some of my deer. Sonny tracked 2 of them the same year. Unfortunately, they're both still alive and made it. I think that one deer went 2 miles.
Yeah, it was at least 2 miles. We started that track with Bear.
Yeah.
We finished the track with Sonny.
Yeah.
The next day.
The next day. That night it was snowing, and we tracked it, 400 or 500 yards, and decided to wait till morning. Then tracked it another 1.5 miles or better, but unfortunately that deer wasn't dead. But so how many deer did you track this year?
80.
80. 80 so far, and you still got a month of season almost left. So
I'd say it's if I track 3 or 4 more, I'll be lucky.
yeah. Um, how many? So you still use Jack Russells mostly, right?
Yeah, still Jack Russells. I have 2 Dachshunds.
One of them's a new pup.
One of them's a new pup,
Yep.
and I have a mixed breed Dachshund. So actually, I have 3.
Right, and I think of all the dogs that I see on the tracking list, I think you're the only one that used Jack Russell.
So far, I don't know anyone else that has.
No, and it's kind of strange because they do awfully good.
For 17 years, I've got my 3rd full-time Jack Russell.
Right, so it was Sonny first,
Sonny first,
and then Bear,
and then Bear.
and
Bear was
deaf.
He was born deaf.
He was born deaf, so that was a little bit different.
All white.
Long hair.
Knew
Yeah.
over 20 hand signals.
Yep, sign language dog.
Bear just passed away last August.
Yeah.
Almost 16 years old.
So how many deer do you think he tracked in his life?
I would say close to 200.
And how many do you think Sonny tracked?
Around 200.
So that leaves 400 and some for
Buck.
Buck. That's a lot. So how many years has Buck been doing it?
7. 5 full-time years. He's
5
7
full-time
years
years.
old now.
So tell us a little bit how the dog tracks a deer, because there's a big misconception that it's a blood tracker, right? So a lot of these pages and stuff are literally called like blood trackers, but the dogs don't track the blood.
If the blood's there, it helps. It helps me and you for sure.
For sure.
But sometimes there's blood there, and it's like he doesn't even see it.
Yeah.
What he's tracking is the gland between their toes. There's an interdigital gland. So that gland is a scent communicator in the deer herd. It also helps prevent against things like bacterial infection in the foot, and there's one in each foot, the front and the back. So that gland tells the deer, in the deer herd, it can tell them which deer it is, the height of the testosterone,
Right.
if he's all rutted up.
Kind of like a fingerprint.
It can even tell which direction they're going.
Right.
So when that deer is wounded, it's releasing different stress chemicals, different pheromones and scents, adrenaline, that is unique to that deer, kind of like fingerprints are to a human. So that dog is able to lock in on that track, even though you and I can't see. May not be no blood for you and I to see. If there was blood, they usually wouldn't need a dog.
Right.
So even though there's not much blood for you and I to see, he's able to follow that track and lock in on that deer after there's been several other deer there, sometimes 2 and 3 days later. After there's been many other deer walk right over top the same tracks, he can still identify the wounded deer.
And that's how he can tell the difference between that deer and all the live deer that are running through there too.
That's right. The live ones are not releasing that unique scent.
Yeah. So, of all the deer that you track, what's the average distance that you find them at, you think?
So if it's shot in front of the diaphragm, the heart-lung cavity, you got the heart, lungs, and main arteries. Those are about the only 3 things in front of the diaphragm that's fatal. Those deer are normally 300 yards or less.
Right.
And 300 yards being a long ways. Now, a rutted buck may be a little different. Open land buck may change a little, but most of the time it's 300 yards or less. Now, if it's shot behind the diaphragm, which is liver, intestines, guts, those deer most of the time are dead or are bedded within 600 yards. Now, they're not always dead. They will be dead.
Yeah.
But most of them are bedded within 600 yards.
Right. So, I know you and I talk a lot on the phone about, people and the deer they shoot and where they shot them, and we see a lot of videos of people shoot deer
A lot
every
of
year.
wounded deer every year.
A lot of wounded deer. And over the years, we've come up with this conclusion that the best way to kill a deer is shoot him center body.
Center mass, big broadhead.
Center mass, big broadhead, expandables.
Rage.
We can argue till we're blue in the face with a lot of people, but, the evidence speaks for itself. Like, your target's smaller, farther forward. And
Absolutely.
And then you have this shoulder bone, and especially in big deer, that
It's like a shield.
it's like armor, right?
Yeah.
And you scoot back behind that, and your target's a lot bigger. Your kill zone triples in size, probably.
Absolutely. And then if if you hit him in the liver, it's dead.
Yeah.
It's fatal. You may hit him in the lungs and he lives.
Right.
So 7 out of 10 phone calls I get every year, and I have for every year ever since I've been doing this, 7 out of 10 phone calls are probably fixed blade broadheads.
Fixed blade.
Fixed blades. And those deer, I don't recover very many of those deer.
Right,
They're
right.
hard to recover, especially if they're gut shot. They go a long ways. Some of them now, some of them are dead and easy to find, but the ones I don't recover that I think did die normally are the fixed blade broadheads.
Yeah.
And that's the majority of the phone calls I get.
Right. So when people call you, you have a list of questions that you ask them. I know I do.
Kind of an interview, yeah.
Kind of like a little interview. And I know one of the first things I always ask is, what broadhead did you use?
Yep.
And they say it's a big expandable. I'm like, all right, we got a chance. Especially when they say, well, I kind of screwed up and shot him back. I hit him in the guts, 2-blade rage. I'm like,
That's when I get excited.
I get excited about it,
yeah,
man.
I got a chance.
There's, you find the majority of those.
Those we find.
I know my dog does better on gut shot deer that are, a day or two later. Like, he seems to smell them better, I guess.
Right.
Like, maybe it's
The
not.
gases start to release.
Yeah, he doesn't have to track it. He just wins it. Like, I found one earlier this year that I don't know that we tracked to the deer because I never found any blood or nothing, but we get into the bottom of this hollow and we're downwind, and he got in the creek and just started putting his nose in the water and drug me up through the water a couple hundred yards, and the deer was laying in the creek.
You was probably downstream.
Yeah, we were downstream from it, yeah.
Well, that scent flows, especially when a dead deer's been laying there overnight.
Yeah.
That scent kind of flows like water
Right.
down the lowest spots, and it lays in the lowest spots. It
Yeah.
kind of washes out of the opening areas.
Yep.
But anywhere there's brush, little creek, little low spots, it stays right in those low spots.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure. He, started diving in the water and, literally, trying to, drink the water and putting his, nose down to it, and I wasn't really sure what he was doing, and he just kept dragging me up the creek, and before long there, the deer was, laying in the water.
Many of the deer I find, I hit the creek first.
Yeah.
And it may even be one flat up out of the creek.
Right.
But he'll run that creek and run up that little drainage right up to the deer.
Yep. The we also come to this conclusion that there's a distance that's not very good when we interview people when it comes to crossbows, right?
Around 35 yards seems to be my number one call.
Right, yeah. People always call and say, well, yeah, it was 30, 35 yards.
Those deer normally hit high.
Usually hit high. Yeah, no man's land, nothing there to get them.
Just nothing. Good
Yeah.
blood for a ways, and then nothing. Dries right up.
So the number one broadhead that you get calls on that are unsuccessful finds
Would be a muzzy
would be a muzzy,
and a slick trick.
slick trick,
G5 Montec.
G5 Montec.
Those three.
Yeah. A wasp
Hardly ever see a wasp anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
I did see a thunderhead the other day.
really?
Yeah.
The I used thunderheads when I was 18 years old.
Shot a lot of deer with
A lot
them.
of deer with them, yeah. The it's kind of crazy thinking back to the equipment that we used and the deer that we killed with aluminum arrows and
I can remember shooting at deer, and they moved before my
before
arrow
the
ever
air
got
got there. Yeah, I don't think I ever shot anything that was that
Oh, it was
slow,
so
but
slow.
yeah, the equipment's definitely come a long ways. The if you were going to tell somebody what's their best move after they shoot a deer and they don't see it die, what would it be?
I'd sit and listen.
Sit and listen.
I would not leave. I'd try to spend at least an hour in the tree. That way you don't make any noise.
It don't move. Yeah.
Don't, just wait. Sit and listen. Try to mark where you last seen the deer. A lot of times when you get out of the tree, it looks a little different than what you picture it from the tree stand. So always try to pick a landmark, a good landmark. And then I would just pick that landmark and leave. I'd give him plenty of time. Most people screw up by going and looking for their deer too soon.
Too soon because, they might shoot that deer and it might be out of sight, but it doesn't mean that it's very far away.
It can wind you. It can hear you.
Yeah, you could shoot that deer and it might be 30 yards out of your view, and then you rush to climb down, and even if you don't go track it, you might still bump that deer out of there.
Absolutely happens all the time.
Yeah.
And even though you see it run off one way, they're notorious for circling back and being laying in your way out.
Yeah.
They'll be laying next to your exit route.
I think if you don't see the deer die, I mean, you should wait a minimum 6 hours before you even go look for it.
Yeah, if you don't hear it crash.
If you don't hear it crash,
If you don't see that good fatal shot.
right? Even if you think you heard it crash, like I've shot deer, I'm like, oh yeah, that deer's toast.
Oh yeah.
And then you walk up there and it's not there.
Nothing there.
Nothing there. I think that's a big thing. Like if you don't wait long enough and you get excited and you climb down, even if you climb down too soon, because they just might hear you or wind you.
Absolutely.
And that deer gets up, the probability of finding it
Goes down about 30%,
yeah,
I'd say.
yeah, almost half of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the longer that deer sits there, the stiffer it
Sicker it
gets,
gets.
sicker it gets. The less likely it's going to get up, and if it does get up, the less likely it's going to go as far.
That's right.
The quicker you bump it, a deer might jump up, and the deer can run a mile in no time.
That's right.
And then die, and it might be harder to find. But what's the longest time period that somebody's called you and said, I shot a deer X amount of hours or days ago? Do you think you can still find it? And you were able to do it?
3 days. I have tracked several deer 3 days old. In the beginning, there was no one else.
Right.
No one heard of tracking deer with dogs.
Right.
So it would be 2 or 3 days later, a lot of times before they ever got my number.
Yeah, before they even heard of you.
Even heard of a dog.
Right, right.
So they would call me and ask me a question, and I would just want to try. I didn't know not to try. So I would go on every track job, and many times I found them 3 days later,
Right.
500 and 600 yards from where they shot them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of people have called me and been like, I shot it this morning. Is it going to be too late? It might be the evening time, or I shot it last night. Is it going to be too late? I don't think 24 hours is too long at all.
What means the most, I believe, is
Weather
well, hot and dry is the worst.
is the worst.
But I think what means the most is what the deer's leaving behind.
Right, right. Is it fatally wounded?
wounded?
Yeah, absolutely. Now that you mentioned the weather, that's another big misconception. Like people will call and it'll be a dry, warm day, and they'll think it's the best time to bring the dog in.
That's the worst.
But it's the worst
dry
time.
Burns the scent out. It's just nothing to track.
And the opposite of that, with a little bit of rain or moisture,
Moisture helps hold the scent to the ground.
the dogs track better.
Much better.
Much
Now,
better, yeah.
Inches of rain is not good.
Right, that's different.
But I've found many, many deer raining inches nonstop for
Yeah.
2 days, 40-mile-an-hour winds,
Mm-hmm.
and go in and find the deer.
Yeah, or you go in on a day where it's 70, 80 degrees and windy and dry, and
you
it's
work.
been 8 hours since they shot it, and it's just like the dog just struggles with it.
Struggles. It's just a long, slow track job.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
I can usually tell by buck if we have a chance or not.
Right.
If it looks like he's going out for a walk and he's peeing on every bush around, he's just not paying attention, that's not good.
Yeah, so the dog's language, the body language of the dog, the way he acts, usually will tell you pretty quickly if you think you're going to find the deer.
Absolutely.
Like, if he's tracking really hard, pulling, then, the deer's leaving behind enough scent that it's probably wounded bad enough that it's going to die.
Right.
Versus, no man's land shot or a leg shot or something like that.
High shoulder.
High shoulder.
Lungs, top the lungs.
Where the deer may not even, be putting out anything because it's not mortally wounded.
Some of them I find blood in the scrapes where they're making scrapes.
Right afterwards. Yeah. So how many times have you been tracking a deer and then it pop up on their cell camera while you're tracking it?
Several times.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I've tracked a few of them, like you said, with the scrapes. I'd be tracking along and be like, well, there's a fresh scrape. There's blood in it. And then you go a little bit farther. And
do you really think this deer?
I'm like, wait a minute, man. We went 600 yards and now this deer's making scrapes. Like, I don't think he's gonna die. He's not gonna die.
And then I start asking, have you checked your cell camera?
Yeah, or any trail camera, because at that point, other corn piles.
Right.
Because he might, in a few hours, you might be back to eating in a different corn pile a few hundred yards away.
That's right.
It's pretty wild.
Most of the tracking calls I get, if they tell me it was shot perfect.
And it wasn't.
Perfect shot. If you can't find it,
Well,
I can't find it.
Why are you calling me? If it's a perfect shot, then it's dead.
a lot of shots look perfect,
Right.
and there's tons of blood, tons of blood.
Yeah.
But with the perfect shot, most of the time, if you can't find it, the dog can't find it dead.
Right.
We do find a lot of them alive, and once in a while, I'll find one buried in the brush. You just missed it, couldn't see it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if it's shot in front of the diaphragm, if it makes it over 300 yards, it's probably going to be alive when we find it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's worrisome when somebody says, and a lot of people say it. They're like, I made a perfect shot. If you made a perfect shot, double lung it, hard it,
You're going to see it go down.
you're going to see it go down.
They don't live long.
They don't live long. The deer I shot this year, I shot through the heart, and it didn't make it 20 yards. The second I shot, I knew he was toasted.
Right.
He was going down.
The deer I shot, it made it about 18 yards.
18 yards, yeah.
And I hit it through the lung, the liver, the diaphragm, and the guts.
And the guts, yeah. It was hard quarter to you, right?
I believe in taking out more than one organ.
Yeah. The perfectly broadside shots are not ideal.
Not in my opinion. Most of those deer I don't find dead. If they die, you don't need me.
Right.
lot of-
Especially if they're shooting in front of the diaphragm.
In front of the diaphragm.
If they're
yeah.
perfectly broadside and you're shooting big mechanical and you shoot them center body mass, they're toast.
You won't need me then either.
Won't need
They'll
us
be
then
dead
either.
within a couple hundred yards
Yeah,
almost
exactly.
every time.
Exactly. So, of all the deer that you track and find, how many of them do you think, percentage-wise, you walk up on that are going to die but are still alive?
Oh, probably 10%, 8%.
Yeah.
Not many.
But you do walk up on a lot of them that are alive that aren't going to die.
Yeah, I do see a lot of them get up and run off.
Yeah. Find a lot of them that there's your deer, but
Or my dog
he
tells
did.
me I jumped it. You can tell.
Oh yeah, you hit a hot zone.
Yeah, the dog just body language
Yeah.
changes. He shifts gears.
Mhm.
Even the people that don't track with the dog can tell when something's different. You can
Right.
just tell. Like bird hunting, they call it getting birdie.
Yeah, exactly.
Buck
Getting
gets
getting
bucky.
sighted. Yeah, getting bucky. Yeah, for sure. The so you got two dachshunds.
Yeah.
One of them's a fresh pup. The other one's how old?
He's 2 now.
He's 2. So what was his name?
Bo,
Bo. That's right.
wire hair dog.
And so how much does he weigh?
I'd say he weighs 13 or 14 pounds. He's a tweenie.
Oh, so he's not that
He
big.
might be 15 pounds.
So what's Buck weigh? 18 pounds? 15 pounds?
20.
20 pounds? Yeah, he's like a little brick.
Yeah, he's solid.
Yeah, he's got a big head. And, yeah.
Yep.
So what makes you think that you're going to go from a Jack Russell to a dachshund?
I don't know if I'll ever go from a Jack Russell to a dachshund.
Right.
But I've had several Jacks. Buck's my third full-time Jack, and I have Grizz.
Mm-hmm.
And Grizz's mom is Parsons Russell Terrier, so Grizz is a little hyper.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're going down the trail, it's just a little harder to read. Where the dachshund is just slow and steady, he's close to the ground.
Right.
He reads a lot more like Buck, and that's
Yeah.
what I was hoping for. Something slow,
Yeah.
steady, it's just a little easier to read. You don't have any doubt.
Yeah. How many deer has he tracked so far? I mean, he's still pretty new to it, right?
I think he's been on 13 or 14 tracks.
Yeah, and he's done pretty good.
Oh yeah, he's found the last 5 he's been on.
Right. So, I mean, there's quite a few people that are running dachshunds as tracking dogs.
Yes.
Nobody else that I know is running Jack Russells. Now, there's quite a few people running the Jag Terriers.
The Jags.
Um,
And the Bavarian Scent Hounds, several Scent Hounds.
yeah.
GSPs.
Yeah.
German short-haired pointers, a lot of those.
I don't know. I'm thinking about it and looking at the list. I'm not really sure what the most popular dog on that list is.
I see a lot of GSPs, a lot of labs, a lot of dachshunds.
Yeah, there's some labs.
And a lot of Scent Hounds.
There's a few people on there with some curs.
So, like the Catahoulas and the bigger dogs, most of them dogs are on loose tracks. They're not on a leash.
Yeah, so I use a German Shepherd, and if we were in a state that we could legally run him off leash, he would be way better to run than on a leash. He's 100,
I'm sure.
100 and some pounds.
He dragged me around everywhere.
I mean, he just beats me up trying to, if he gets super excited about one, it's hard to hold him back.
I wouldn't release my dogs because they're so small. I'd be afraid of coyotes.
Right, yeah. Well, I ain't worried about that with mine, but he wears you out. I think, and being 100 and some pounds, I don't think his endurance is is as good as your smaller dogs. Like,
Yeah, Buck's amazing. He can do 5 track jobs a day.
yeah, I mean, I take my dog on, I've done 3 or 4 a day a lot of times, and he's beat, especially a few days in a row of that on long tracks, and it's hard.
We do it the whole month of November.
Yeah. You take off work.
From the last week of October, just around Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
I know when my phone starts ringing every day, it's time to take off work.
Yeah. So
I'll take off last week of October, whole month of November,
Yep.
until the gun season after the first week of December.
Yep. So, talking about gun season, they bring that up. There's I see a lot of calls on our message page and the tracking page in gun season, and almost all of them seem to be the same 350 Legend caliber.
All the time, 350 Legend.
Yeah. So you have a 350 Legend, right?
I do.
And you like it.
I love it.
But you went with a little different grain bullet or something, didn't you? That you
I think
thought
it's 165 grain Winchester. Says deer, bear, and boar on it.
Yeah.
I've had good luck with it.
Yeah, I see it. I mean, you don't see very much from the 450s on there, people calling for tracking jobs. But
No, and if I do, I find them.
yeah, for sure. I mean, what is it about the 350 that just doesn't seem to put them down? Just the small caliber, or just
That they don't bleed much.
they just don't bleed much? It's not ripping them open.
No,
It's
and
just,
there's a lot of shoulder shots that I tracked one this year. It was 470 yards through the shoulder, through the lungs, through the liver, busted the hind quarter on the opposite side, and it still made it 470 yards, no blood.
Is it just the 350 Legend, just the small hole? Does the bullet doesn't expand, you think?
I think it's just a 100-yard gun, and if it's over 100 yards, it shoots so well and so accurate, it's easy to hit the deer at a long range.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it has the impact and the punch for the long range.
Right.
I shot one at 100 yards. It was a nice buck. Shot clean through both front shoulders. It didn't go nowhere. Made a big hole. I had no trouble. But ever since I rarely tracked a deer in gun season. And then once the 350 Legend came out, I got 20 calls that first year.
20 calls.
So this year, I tracked 7 during gun season. And one was a 4570, one was a 360 buckhammer, and all the others were 350 Legend.
So what's the 360 buckhammer like? I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about
It's basically a straight wall 30-30.
it. Straight wall 30-30.
That deer was shot through the front shoulder, through the lungs. There was no exit wound. They tracked it 500 yards with good blood, and it jumped a fence and bedded. And from there, they had lost it, and what I believe is they jumped it. Right at dark, they went and tracked it. I think
Pushed
they
it.
jumped it. It went another 350 yards straight up over a hill and down the other side. And we're tracking it the next day. So we're coming down the hill, and I look up. Well, I asked them, is there anyone else around? Because it's gun season, And they said, no, there won't be anybody in there. It said Dan's in the tree stand clear in the backfield. The deer is not going towards Dan. Well, before you know it, we're looking Dan in the eye, and he's in his tree stand, and we're walking right underneath the tree. And Dan says, there wasn't no deer come through here, guys. And I told Dan it would have been last night. It would have been yesterday. And Buck's looking right underneath his ladder, looking all over. And Buck went right past his tree, 20 yards down over the hill, across the creek, and the deer was buried up in a
So it was dead.
brush pile. It was dead.
It was dead.
And it was over 850 yards from where he had shot it.
Wow.
Through the front shoulder, perfect shot.
Yeah.
Looked like a perfect shot.
I'll be doing. So, how many deer have you tracked total in 17 years?
874.
800.
Give or take 1 or 2.
874. Man, it won't be long. You'll be in that 4 digits.
Yeah, working on it.
Another couple year or 2 probably.
Yeah, probably 2 years.
Yeah. What's the craziest tracking job you ever done?
Oh, there's been so many of them.
You before you tell that one, you ended up in the hospital over one of them, right?
Yeah.
You got rammed
Yeah, I had
by a
deer.
big buck.
I got too close.
Broke your ankle.
Run his brow tine through my mouth.
Yeah.
and
Ended up with some stitches. So if I remember this correctly, you ended up with a broken ankle. Another guy ended up with stitches.
Stitches in his lip.
Your dog ended up with stitches. So it was 2 grown men and ended up in the hospital, and the dog ended up in the vet.
but the deer got the worst part of it.
But the deer,
I never let go.
yeah. So I don't know what happened to the video footage, but it's crazy. He's walking up on it, and the deer stands up and rears back like a ram, and just drove you to the ground, and then just shoved you backwards, and you were just holding on to the rack, and then the other guys come in and jumped on it and stabbed it, right?
Yeah, drug it off of me.
Yeah. So your dog.
Yeah, it was scary. I don't like reliving it.
Well, the whole reason you were trying to really grab a hold of it was because the dog got shot, right?
Yeah, been wounded.
Yeah. So
Arrow ricocheted and hit the dog in the hip.
Yeah, the hunter was trying to make a follow-up shot, and the arrow went through its armpit, right?
And hit him in the hip.
Hit him in the
back
hip.
Oh, it ricocheted off the deer's armpit.
Yeah, and come out.
When
And
it came out at about a 60-degree angle, which hit my dog. He's on a big, long leash.
And cut his hip.
30-foot leash, and he's up there next to the deer. Yeah, and hit him in the hip.
Yeah, he ended up with, what, 17 staples?
Yeah, I think it was about 17 staples.
That's what I thought.
He did real good. He was tracking
It didn't even
6 days later.
Yeah, he didn't
he was
even know.
tracking.
Yeah. That was sunny?
Yeah, that was sunny.
That was sunny.
That was about 14 years ago.
Yeah. It's been a long time ago.
Been a long time ago.
All right, back to the craziest one.
I don't even know which one would be the craziest.
The one that always comes to mind when I think about this is the zombie deer. The one that died twice and ended up in the river.
Yeah, that deer was amazing.
Yeah.
So I was actually on crutches.
This was right after you got your ankle broken,
got
right?
My ankle broken, and I was on crutches. And my brother-in-law was tracking with Sonny, and they kept going back to where the deer guy had shot it, and the Sonny tracked right back to the truck where I was at. And we're up this little lane. There's kind of a river, and there's a few houses. And we was at the last house in the yard, and the last drop of blood came to the yard. And I told them to go back up the hollow. Maybe it turned around, went back up the hollow. Well, while they was going back up the hollow, I decided to look around, and I'm on crutches, so I start back down the driveway, and there's a barn there. And there's kind of a deer trail angled towards behind the barn. And I just happened to look up behind the barn, and it was laying right behind the barn.
Still alive.
Still alive. Not very well.
Right.
So when they came back, we put the dog in the truck and told the hunter where it was at, showed him where it was at. And we all stayed back, and he snuck in, shot it again. Well, this time he hit it in the hindquarter, and it jumped up and took off running.
Yep.
So it runs down around the house, through the neighbor's yard. So we go talk to the neighbors, and we get permission to go look. And we find it right behind the neighbor's house in the brush pile. It's upside down, legs sticking in the air.
Flopping or
barely moving.
Barely moving.
So he runs up and puts a finishing shot on it right there.
Right in the chest.
Right in the chest. So we're sitting there looking at it, high-fiving.
Thinking it's over.
Thinking it's over. 20 minutes. It's a 150-inch 8-point.
Yeah.
We're measuring the beams with our hands, trying to
guess the score.
And the width. It's super heavy. This thing's, it looks like it's going to field dress 220 pounds. It's a monster deer.
Big deer.
So they decided they wanted to gut it. And we was in those neighbors' backyard, so we didn't want to gut it in the backyard. We wanted to drag it back over towards the river where we was at. So those guys took off dragging. And I'm behind on crutches holding the dog, I'm going kind of slow. And I just happened to look up. They probably drugged the deer 25, 30 yards. I looked up, and the deer was walking behind him. And each one of them had a hold of the rack.
And they had no idea.
They're high-fiving.
They're just excited, thinking they're dragging it out.
Yeah, they think the other guys are dragging. And I hollered and said, "Hey, guys, that deer's standing up."
Still standing up.
And they scattered. They turned around, seen it. They scattered. So it's just standing there. Why it's just standing there. And I said, "Hey,
like a zombie.
Drop kick that thing." So my brother-in-law took off running, jumped and drop kicked it. And when he drop kicked it, it took off staggering, and it run, I don't know, the further it staggered, the faster it went. And it ran probably 80 yards to the river and jumped in the river and started swimming the river. And right behind him, there he went. My brother-in-law jumped in the river
after him.
Got it by the tail, pulled it back, and they held it until it drowned. Yeah, it was.
Wow. So it was shot twice.
3 times.
Shot 3 times, and then drowned.
Yeah,
That's pretty wild. The
That's back before I knew what not to do.
What not to do, yeah.
Yeah, that's been years ago.
Well, that was shortly after you figured out what not to do.
Yeah, that's back when Sonny was still around.
Yeah, yeah. I know there's been some crazy stories. Every year there's crazy stories, though.
I tracked 40 deer that year on crutches.
Yeah, yeah. I know when it's like super busy. Like you and I talk every day, and it's.
Oh yeah, I like to get your opinion.
It's always.
We always seem to agree.
Yeah, yeah. Especially when people got video footage, or
Oh yeah, that really helps.
That's where it helps. Like, I think you sent me a video. I don't know, 2 weeks ago, and that guy thought it was dead, didn't he?
Yeah, it
And
was hit below the knee.
yeah, and I slowed the footage down, and I was like, yeah, that hit the opposite leg. And,
I wanted to make sure I was seeing the same thing.
and you said the exact same thing. You said, yeah, it's hit the opposite leg. I was like, yeah, that's what I thought too. I don't know. So you're on your third major tracking dog, right? So it was Sonny, Bear, Buck. And are you gonna get another Jack Russell, you think?
I don't know yet. I'd like to have a female.
I like to have a female. Or you
I hate to not have a Jack.
yeah, hate to not have
I haven't had dachshunds long enough now. Bo's doing really good.
Yeah.
And I plan on having dachshund pups soon. And I'm going to train the pups too.
Yeah.
And I may have some pups for sale someday. But
So that's kind of the plan, right? To maybe get some pups, whether it be Jack Russells or Dachshunds, and then we're going to train them, and then we'll sell the pups as trained pups.
Fully trained, ready to go tracking dogs.
I mean, fully trained or at least beginning stages. I guess you could do either.
Year and a half old probably.
That's what I was thinking, because you really can't get them fully trained until they're 2 years.
2 years old. You don't have a dog till he's 2.
Until he's 2.
But we may have to teach the tracker too.
Yeah.
A lot of people could get a hold of Buck and it just wouldn't work.
Wouldn't work. Yeah. A lot of people could get a hold of my dog and they would let go of him pretty quick.
It's just
yeah.
It's hard to tell. We'll be tracking, and so many people would look and they ask me, we've been going for 10 minutes, ain't nothing happening. What's happening?
Right.
And bam, you got the deer.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
it's hard. It's hard to tell what's happening.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess you could do the pups at different stages, right? You could say this pup's 6 months old, and
absolutely.
He's beginning stages. He's done some mock tracks.
I've never tried the mock tracks, but I'm open to try.
Right.
I'd like to talk to somebody that has.
And we could basically write up a manual or a guide, I guess it would be, to finish that dog out.
That's right.
But they would just have to have the expectations that, he's 6 months old. If he was 6 months old in December or whatever, then he could start tracking in that following fall.
Sure.
It'd be a good year for him to learn. And then the following year, he would be ready to rock.
When Buck was 8 months old, I took him on 15 tracks.
Yeah.
And he found 8.
8. How old was he?
8 months.
8 months.
That's when he started. So he was 8, 9, 10 months that first year.
Yeah. So I think
when he was 2, I started using him full time.
Yeah. Yeah. Jax was
2.
2 the first year I really put him on it. We did
pretty heavy.
We did 40 some that year.
That's what I was thinking.
Yep. And I didn't get to track near as much this year with work and kids, but the few that I did get to take him on, he was definitely more mellow. At
the
4.
older he gets, the better he gets.
At 4, he was a lot more mellow.
Buck's in his prime.
Yeah, so
he just walks out there like he knows everything, like right where to go.
Yeah,
goes straight to the kill shot. He follows the guys from the truck, and he leads us like he knows he can. He tracks where their boots were, but he follows us straight in every time.
Yeah. How old's Buck?
7.
7. So he's still good for.
Yeah, he's still in his prime.
For a lot of years.
Several.
I mean, how old was Bear when you finally quit tracking?
When he was about 12, he was just getting so tired.
Right.
He still wanted to go, still wanted to do it, but he got tired easy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you see those people with their duck dogs, like old, and they take them out and they let them get one duck.
I would always take him on a couple tracks every year that I knew were easy.
Yep. So this year, you guys, your whole family had a good year.
Yeah, my wife tagged out the first day.
So your wife tagged out.
Nice 8 points.
Then your daughter killed a nice one.
Second weekend.
And then you killed a stud.
November 2nd.
Right.
Yeah.
So your wife tagged out the first day.
She hunted an hour and 20 minutes.
Nice.
killed a big 8-point.
Yeah.
Made a perfect shot. Shot him center mass. Rage broadhead. He went 80 yards.
Mm-hmm.
She found him before we ever talked to her.
Yeah. I bet she was excited.
No, she was.
That was that it was a wide deer?
Yeah, about like that. It looked about like that 8-point right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Just didn't have a foot-long drop tine hanging off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was driving down the road and you sent me a picture of Leela laying there with her deer.
Yeah, we hunted it 3 different nights.
Yep.
We saw it all 3 nights,
Mm-hmm.
but the first day it didn't come in. It came in to an oak tree, and it ate acorns, but it never committed to the corn pile.
Right.
The second night it came in, ate the acorns, came to the corn pile, but wouldn't present a shot. There were too many trees.
Mm-hmm.
And the third night it came in like he was on a string straight to us.
That's awesome.
She made a perfect shot, center of the body. He made it 30 yards.
Yeah.
Rage extreme.
Oh, man. She was excited.
Raven crossbow.
So Leela's 10, 11? 11.
Just turned
That's
11.
right. So my oldest daughter's 9, so she's 11. How many deer she killed?
She's killed 3 bucks.
She's killed, I was going to say, she's killed a few nice bucks. Yeah.
She's up to 3 nice bucks now.
Yep. And Carolyn's killed several nice bucks.
Several nice bucks.
Yeah,
Yeah, she has a 141 on the wall.
Was that the 10 or an 8?
10.
Yeah, she killed a big 8 last year too.
Killed a big 8-point 2 years ago on the first day.
2 years ago on the first day.
Yeah, she's the first day killer.
Yeah, first day killer.
Big 8 points.
Yeah, and then you killed this buck here. What day did you kill that deer?
November 2nd.
November 2nd.
He showed up October 31st.
So you had no history with him?
No history with the drop tine.
Right.
Now, it's possible that he was a 9-point. We have a 9-point that was there last year. We thought was 5.5. That the beams turn up just like this deer. It's real similar. The same location, same time of year he showed up. You know, we didn't have him till the rut. So we think it was the 9-point. And if it was the 9-point, he was clean 9-point up until this year.
Yeah.
And then he grew 11.25-inch drop tine.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, so not much history with him, and you killed him on the first sit?
Yeah, no.
Not your first sit, but the first sit for that deer.
No, not that first sit. I hunted 3 times.
Oh, see, I thought for some reason I was thinking that he showed up, and then you went in there and killed him.
He showed up that day, and then I went hunting that day. And then that was October 31st.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 1st, I went and I got a tracking call.
Yeah.
So I got down out of the tree.
Oh.
And I left.
And he showed up.
And the 2nd, I went in, and he showed up.
Killed him on the 2nd.
Killed him on the 2nd. Shot him at 18 yards. Raven crossbow. Rage broadheads.
Quartered to you.
Quartered 2.
And he went 18 yards.
18 yards. The arrow went in right behind the shoulder, passed through his liver, gut came out the inside of his hind quarter.
Yep.
He bolted. He bolted and stopped, and it's real thick and brushy.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what happened. I thought sure I tenderloined him because it went silent. He went 18 yards and stopped. I knew he was right there,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't understand why he didn't run off. And I waited and waited. 5 minutes went by, and I was trying to be silent, but he's so close. He's still right there.
Mm-hmm.
And all at once, I heard him leaf move, so I knew he was still there. So I waited and waited. Another 5 minutes, I heard him lay down.
Laid down.
Oh, when I got the shakes. So I didn't want him to get up and run off. I knew if he heard me, this whole time I'm thinking he's going to run off. So I'm trying to be quiet. And then I know 5 minutes went by. This probably wasn't that long, but it seemed like an eternity. I heard him slide over the hill.
Slid over the hill.
Oh,
Knew he was done,
then I got nervous. And then I about fell out of the tree trying to get down.
Yep.
Couldn't wait to get down. And I got down, reloaded the crossbow, and eased up there.
And he was done.
He was expired.
Yeah.
He only made it 18 yards.
Yeah, and I remember you texted me or called me and said you were going to go in and shoot the drop tine deer, and then a few hours later I got a picture of him laying there with the raven on him. So
yeah,
it didn't
the weather
take long.
was right. Everything was right.
Yeah, it was. So for your whole family, essentially, be tagged out by November 2nd.
Amazing year.
Yeah,
we were truly blessed this year.
It doesn't happen like that too often. I know.
No.
I know. There's been lots of years that you and I have been clear into the last day of hunting season in Ohio in February and cold.
cold,
Yeah.
huh? So many cold nights.
Yeah, you killed a borderline booner on the very last day,
February 3rd, 2nd or 3rd.
2017.
Yeah, I think it was 17.
It was because I killed this deer here in 16.
We tracked that one with the dog.
Yeah, we tracked that one with the dog. I shot that deer. We tracked that deer twice with the dog. Yeah,
That's
so
right.
I wounded him once, and then 2 weeks later I killed him.
Yep.
That's a story for another day. But yeah, so what was I saying about your deer? I don't know now. But oh yeah, the fact that you were done. We've been in the late season. You killed that borderline booner is what I was saying.
Oh, that's right.
On the very last day. Yeah, because I was laughing because I shot this deer. It was going to be the first year that I killed a deer bigger than you.
Yeah, you called me.
Yeah, I said, you're not going to get it done now. And then you called me, you're like,
Second to last day.
Yeah, second to last day. Second
Got
to
it
last
done.
day. Yeah.
I went in to shoot a doe. Leela wanted deer jerky.
Yeah.
And I went in to shoot a doe, and doe walked right in, and I shot and missed her, shot right over.
Yep.
And I was thinking, boy, this is my last opportunity to hunt. I got to get it done.
You got to get it done.
So I sat there and reloaded the bow real quiet, and she stood there for, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, and I thought she was going to come back in.
Yeah.
And then once she moved off, and I heard a stick break, and he walked out. I shot and dropped him.
Nice. Yeah. Heck of a deer.
Had I got that doe, I'd have been out of the woods and gone.
Heck of a
You
deer.
would have beat me that year.
Yeah, would have beat you that year. I mean, on the bright side, though, I think every year that we both killed a deer since then, I beat you.
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been real close. What did your deer score this year?
He's 161, missing the brow tine.
Was he 161?
Yeah. Yep. So add another 5 inches of that or so. You've been 165 or
That's
something like
dandy.
that. Yeah. Yep, and then killed that deer in the center there behind you last year. How many deer over 150 you think you've killed?
5,
5? I figured that was more than that.
maybe 7.
Yeah. We'll see. I know you got that the big 9.
And flyer. The 11.
The
Oxbow.
the oxbow, the 11, the barn buck,
The barn buck.
165, right?
First day buck.
Yep, first day buck. That deer,
Mm-hmm.
there's 6. I don't know. I think I feel like we're missing something because you walk in your house and there's 30 of them up there. So
No, I know.
yeah, the
My boys have killed some.
Yeah.
Carolyn's killed some.
yep. But well, I guess we're probably getting close to wrapping this one up. But like I said in the first one that I did, I hope the first one I did by myself was the last one that I do by myself. My goal is for me and Walter to do all of them together. So our plan over the next, I don't know, at least 10 episodes or so is we'll do some of them here probably, but my main goal is to go to other people's places. We got some other trackers that we talk to a lot.
Yeah, we'd like to talk to, interview some of the other trackers.
Yeah, we like to go talk to Sean Butler and Toby and some of these other guys that, track hardcore like we do.
Kyle Gilson.
Yep, Kyle. And then we got some big buck killers that we want to go talk to. We want to do some deer profiles on just our buddies' deer, etc.
We'd like to talk to some of the drone guys.
Yeah, like talk to some of the drone guys. I mean, there's a lot of controversy and arguments really between the drone guys and the dog guys.
It'd be nice to bring some of that to light.
Yeah,
Clear
I
it
mean,
up.
I bought a thermal drone this year, and I mean, I'm mostly going to be a dog guy because we've done it for so long, and in my opinion, they're better. They're a little more versatile, but there's definitely scenarios where the drone's helpful.
I'm sure there is. I don't know much about the drone.
Yeah, so
I like the dog being able to go down the blood trail the way the deer went.
right, yeah, you kind of see it better. I think.
I think I can read it a little better.
I think the biggest difference is, I mean, you can find it with the drone, but what do you do when you find it with the drone that's still alive?
I don't know. I like the
You just
I like
back
the
out
idea
and-
of not walking.
Right. Yeah, I like that idea. Not getting tore up and
Stand there at the truck.
etc. Yeah. But yeah, so we got some trackers that we want to go talk to. We got hopefully Keith Snyder we tracked deer for him, and
It'd be great to talk to Keith.
been friends with him for a lot of years. He's a great dude.
Maybe we can interview some of the people I've tracked deer for in the past.
Yeah, that would be cool too. I would like to go to some people's houses that we track for, and talk to him about the deer that you found.
Yeah,
I mean, do a buck profile on it while we're talking about it.
that'd be nice.
You bought a GoPro and stuff this year.
Yeah,
First time in all these years. So he started making some videos. So I'll work on editing some of that up, and then next year, obviously, that'll get ramped up some more, and it'd be really cool to be able to have some people on, talk about the tracking job and the footage at the same time. Have the buck here,
That'd be
where
real nice.
or there, and we'll put it all together. This is the first one that we've done with all this new equipment and stuff that I bought, so bear with us as I figure out how to produce it all and put it together. It'll get smoother and a little better every time. But hey, appreciate you guys listening. Hopefully we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Have a good evening.